Hello, let's start our new chapter, India's foreign policy. What we are going to learn in this chapter? We have got introduced to the international system and its nature and the Cold War in the last century and its effects. We shall now get introduced to other related issues. Thus, we shall learn about the meaning of foreign policy, factors that make an impact on it, and the nature of India's foreign policy. First, foreign policy. Meaning and importance. All countries are members in the international system. We have already studied that none of these countries are completely self-reliant, and hence there is a mutual interdependence in the international system. Only this interdependence should not be of benefit to a few countries. Efforts need to be made to ensure that it benefits every nation. Each country has to decide the nations with which it should be friendly, with which it should participate, or what position it should take in international relations. Such decisions should be made thoughtfully. The theoretical framework in which such decisions are taken is called as foreign policy. Every sovereign and independent country decides its own foreign policy. Hence, in the discipline of the international politics, which studies the international relations between nations, foreign policy has an important place. We have a box over here. Do you know? When we have to study a country, it's necessary to study the constitution and its foreign policy. The next topic is national interest. We have briefly understood what foreign policy means and national interest and foreign policy are closely connected to each other. National interest is fostered through foreign policy. Therefore, before studying foreign policy further, we need to understand the meaning and significance of national interest. National interest implies the means through which the independence and sovereignty of our country can be safeguarded. National interest also includes efforts to achieve our economic development and to take steps towards increasing our national power. When decisions are taken after giving a careful thought to what is beneficial and good for the country, we say that we are nurturing our nation's interest. In this sense, the following factors are included in the national interest of any country. Defense, that is, the protection of the country's independence, sovereignty, and integrity is the highest national interest. Second, economic development is also an important national interest. An economically weak country will not be able to maintain its independence. Hence, economic development is understood to be an important national interest next to the defense. Next topic, national interest and foreign policy. Foreign policy is drawn up to foster the national interest, defense, and economical development. National interest is considered to be the goal, and foreign policy is considered to be the means to achieve it. Goals of a nation changes with changes in conditions and time. Accordingly, national interest also changes. These changes are reflected in the foreign policy. Therefore, foreign policy is always dynamic. Let's discuss. Even though some changes happen in the foreign policy due to the changes circumstances and times, foreign policies of some nations are based on some eternal principles. For example, India's foreign policy is based on values like international peace, human rights, and security. What provisions should be included in the foreign policy to achieve these values according to you? So, factors influencing foreign policy. Foreign policy decides what kind of relations to have with which country in the international system, but several factors affect the policy while it has been decided. First one, geographical location. You must have seen the globe or map of the world. You can see the geographical location of any nation from that. Some countries are far away from others, while others there are several neighboring countries around some countries. Some nations have a long coastline, while some have plenty of mineral wealth. In some, the size, population, topography, coastline availability in natural resources, all these factors need to be considered while deciding the foreign policy of any country. Second, political system. In a democratic political system, the nation's parliament plays an important role in involving foreign policy. When the different aspects come up for discussion in parliament, the opposition parties tries to regulate the foreign policy. by raising questions about the same. Federal political systems have to take into an account the inclinations of the constituent nations while shaping foreign policy because affairs in neighboring nations affect the constituent states. For example, events in Sri Lanka may affect Tamil Nadu, those in Bangladesh may affect West Bengal and the northeastern India. We have an activity here. The peace and stability in the neighboring countries is as important as that of within the country. Hence, India has to take efforts to create democracy in the neighboring countries. Third important rule, economy. In modern times, the economic conditions of any country has acquired great importance in deciding foreign policy. As a result, the economy impacts foreign policy in two ways. First, foreign policy is shaped by the need to establish economic relationships with the other countries, import export, participation in world trade, all aimed at strengthening the economy of the country. Second, in today's world, the issues of economic security are as important as national security. A country is recognized to be powerful in proportions to the economic security it enjoys. Countries having a strong economy are less dependent on others. They can have an independent foreign policy as well. Fourth aspect is national leadership. The president, the prime minister, the foreign minister, the defense minister, the finance minister, the home minister have a role in deciding foreign policy. The persons holding these positions tries to maintain the continuity in foreign policy and to improve upon it. For example, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru contributed the policy of non-alignment to India's foreign policy. Prime Minister Bihari Vajpayee contributed a great deal to improving Sino-Indian relations. Okay, we have a para over here, kind of an activity. Do you agree? If yes, why, and if not, why not? Write in detail. The question is, in order to increase the economic power of the nation, instead of focusing on elevation of poverty, efforts should be made to increase the wealth and the buying capacity of the people. We have another activity here. Complete the list by writing the contributions made by the following leaders. For example, Lal Bahadur Shastri, the Tashkent Agreement. So you should fill for Indira Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi, Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Name the Prime Minister who followed these policies. We have localized efforts to increase foreign direct investment. Complete the activity that helps you in learning the chapter more in detail. So the fifth factor, effectiveness, administrative factors. Ministry of External Affairs, Foreign Secretary, ambassadors in different countries, diplomatic officers, etc. are the administrative factors involved in creating foreign policy. Even though the final decision about foreign policy are taken by the Prime Minister and the Minister of External Affairs, the administrative machinery helps to arrive at that decision. The administrative officers collect information needed to shape the foreign policy, analyze it, and give appropriate advice based on it. The National Security Advisor also completes this task. We have a question here. What will you do? You are working as a foreign secretary. The Prime Minister is going to visit to China. As Foreign Secretary from the Minister of External Affairs, what topics you suggest the Prime Minister for discussion? Yeah. The next topic is India's foreign policy. After taking this preliminary information about foreign policy, we shall now get to know more about India's foreign policy. India got independence in 1947, and from then onwards, we started shaping our foreign policy independently. The directive principles of state policy have laid down guidelines about how to shape foreign policy. Article 51 among the directive principles of state policy lay down the broad framework for foreign policy. According to it, India should give priority to safeguard international peace and security and resolve of international problems and disputes by peaceful means. The objectives of our foreign policy should be to maintain friendly relations with other nations and respect international laws. India's foreign policy till now has been developed in this framework. Let's get into the next page. Okay, we have a small information box over here. Article 51 of Indian Constitution promotes international peace and security, maintain just and honorable relations between nations, foster respect for international law and the treaty obligations in the dealings of organized people with one another, encourage settlements of international disputes by arbitration. The next topic. Some more objectives of India's foreign policy are as follows. While maintaining friendly relations with neighboring countries, ensure that the defense and security of India is not affected. Not to compromise about the geographical borders of the nation. Second, protect the unity and integrity of the nation. Third, protect the interests of Indian citizens living in other countries. This responsibility is fulfilled by the Indian ambassadors there. Fourth, to establish economic and commercial relations with other countries for achieving economic development for India. A review of India's foreign policy. We shall take a review of India's foreign policy in two stages. The period from independence to 1990 can be considered as the first stage. Second stage would be from 1990 till date. India's foreign policy early phase. First one. Prime Minister Pandit Nehru shaped India's foreign policy in the early period. He opposed colonialism through India's foreign policy. He took an internationalist position and gave priority to the global peace and security. Three things that influenced India's foreign policy in this period. First one, we made an effort to understand all international events and developments independently without any pressure from any power. Peace has always been the central feature of India's foreign policy. The threats from China and Pakistan were also taken into account. One more feature of India's foreign policy at this time was the insistence of self-reliance. In the beginning, India decided to improve relations with countries in Asia. Efforts were taken to cooperate with Asian countries in order to achieve development and to keep our independence intact. This concept was regional development later expanded to include Africa as well. But some Asia African countries participated in the military pacts led either by the America or the Soviet Union. This stopped the process of regional development. After this, countries of Asia and Africa which did not participate in these military pacts supported the concept of non-alignment. Peace and freedom became the fundamental principle for non-aligned policy. In this period, India had to face conflict with neighboring countries. Wars happened between India and Pakistan over Kashmir question in 1947 and in 1948 and in 1965. In the third war that happened in 1971, Pakistan broke apart and independent Bangladesh was created. In the decade of 1970s, there came about some stability in India's foreign policy. India had risen as a powerful regional power in South Asia. Sorry. By conducting nuclear tests in 1947, India had also proved her nuclear capability. In 1980, however, some changes began to take place. In order to increase some cooperation among South Asian countries, the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation (CSAARC) was established. India initiated a dialogue to improve relations with China. India also started interaction with America for cooperation in the field of security. First stage 1947 to 1990. India adopted the policy of non-alignment in the context of the Cold War. As a result, priority was given to maintaining friendly relations with all nations and taking help required for development from other countries. Due to the policy of non-alignment, India would get aid from both the superpowers. Second, there was a lot of stress on improving or strengthening India's defense. This technology required for this was imported. Soviet Union, France, and Germany helped India in this matter. In this period, India had to face some challenges. These including the conflicts with Pakistan, creation of Bangladesh, and conflict with China. India proved her nuclear capability by conducting nuclear tests in 1947. Oh, we have a box over here, information box. Contribution of Pandit Nehru to India's foreign policy. His stand was that India should independently understand the global or international affairs. He followed up the policy of peace. Second stage, 1991 till date. India's foreign policy became more comprehensive and dynamic in the second stage. In the post-Cold War period, the priority no longer remained to political or military relations. Several other dimensions like economy, trade, education, and technology got included in foreign policy. After 1991, India reduced the government control over the economy and adapted the free market policy. Naturally, there was an increase in trade with neighboring countries. Our share in the world trade increased. Efforts began to be made to increase the rate of economic rate. In the decade after 1990, our relation with South Asian countries like Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, etc. became stronger. Our trade exchange with Israel, Japan, China, and European Union increased. India began to participate in organizations at the time and regional levels more than before. For example, G20, BRICS, Brazil, Asia, India, China, and South Africa. Our relations with America strengthened, mutual trust grew. India's status rose in the international community. India's nuclear policy is an important part of India's foreign policy. You must have studied the meaning of nuclear energy and uses in subjects like history, geography, and chemistry. Having understood the importance of nuclear power, India undertook the nuclear energy program immediately after independence. For this, we established the Department of Atomic Energy and the Indian Atomic Energy Commission. The first chairman of Indian Atomic Energy Commission was Dr. Homi Bhabha. Even though electricity generation was the main purpose behind the program, it also aimed at creating military capability. A consequence of this, India conducted her first nuclear test in 1974. India built nuclear weapons and conducted nuclear tests in 1998. We have also made missiles carrying nuclear weapons, and Air Force and Navy have been enabled for carrying them. India is now a country which has nuclear weapons. We have accepted the role of a possible nuclear power. India has been consistently supporting efforts for disarmament because it is India's position that there should be peace and security in the world. Having taken a survey of foreign policy in this way, we are going to study India's defense system. We have activities over here. This is the first one. First one is, what is the meaning of economical growth rate? Second, prepare a chapter on the economic growth rate in Nepal, India, and Bhutan. Another activity here, there's a lot of similarities between India and America. For example, both are democracies. Find more such similarities and prepare a project on it. We have information box over here. Nuclear weapons are extremely destructive, hence it is necessary to make consistent effort so that they are never used. Two treaties have been made to stop the spread of nuclear weapons. 1. Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NNPT. Second one, Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, CTBT. The combination of both these treaties are of benefit to big nuclear powers, and they put unfair restrictions on developing countries. Hence, India has not signed either of these treaties. Another activity, the number of countries making nuclear weapons is growing. Prepare a statement from your class to stop the proliferation of nuclear weapons. Try to get it published in a newspaper. We'll get into the exercise. I'll read the questions for you. Choose the right option and rewrite the sentence. First one. This was the main objective behind the establishing of new Indian Atomic Energy Commission. First, enhance military capability, conduct nuclear tests to stop proliferation of nuclear weapons, production of atomic energy. Second question. The following is now the objective of all nations in the world: atomic development, economic development, and nuclear test security system. Third question. Dash is an important aspect of India's foreign policy. Free economic policy, interdependence, non-alignment, nuclear development. 4. India conducted nuclear tests in 1974 at Sriharikota, Tumba, Pokhara, Jaitakpur. Now the second question. Explain the reasons whether the following statements are true or false. First, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru contributed towards improving Sino-Indian relationships. Second one, Atal Bihari Vajpayee took lead in improving relations with Pakistan. The third question is, explain the following concepts. First one, A. India's foreign policy. B. National interests. C. World peace. Fourth question is, what is your opinion about the fact that the world peace is threatened due to the nuclear preparedness? The fifth question, answer the following questions in brief. On that principles, it's India's first one. On what principles is India's foreign policy based? Second one, who has contributed to improving Sino-India relations? Third one, write the objectives of India's foreign policy. The sixth question is, prepare the following concept map. Factors affecting foreign policies. Lastly, we have an activity here. Find some information about the countries with whom India had trade relations in ancient times. I guess everyone understood it. Thank you.